Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Nick Egan Times. We have an awesome guest on this episode. We have Jonesy. Jonesy is a comedian based out of LA. Jonesy is a host and producer of Weird AF News, the only daily news podcast hosted by a comedian with over 1 million downloads. As a stand-up comedian, Jonesy has performed in 7 different countries, including Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, and Taiwan. Something you might find noteworthy is that Jonesy was touring all those countries during the outbreak of the virus, and yet it didn't end his tour. Uh, Jonesy's been on The Letterman Show, Drunk History, Unbreakable, Kimmy Schmidt. So, welcome, Jonesy, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate you calling me an awesome guest, although I think that puts a lot of pressure on me. I'm going to have to be awesome on your show today. I'll do my best. I will do my absolute best to be awesome and funny and fascinating, and maybe I'll even sound somewhat intelligent. That's what I hope to get out of this. Just if your listeners just think, oh, that's an intelligent fellow, I'll be very pleased with that.
I'm pretty sure you're an intelligent fella. How's it all been going over there?
Well, I live in LA, and we've really been strict about locking stuff down. Maybe not as strict as you guys, but for U.S. standards, pretty strict here. The surrounding counties are still, bars are open, hair salon, everybody's doing their thing. But in LA County, they've got very strict, man. They just allowed us to eat at restaurants as long as it's outdoors. And everybody's wearing masks and this sort of thing, but still our gyms are closed for the most part. No indoor dining, no indoor bars, no live entertainment, really, for the most part. So it's been kind of shitty. As a live entertainer myself, I've found it debilitating. I was very fortunate enough to do a show this week. It was private show indoors for about 15 people. And a guy that just kind of reached out to me through Instagram and wanted to hire some comedians to entertain him and his friends because they were sick and tired of not being able to see a comedy show. It's been a long time. And so, me and my buddy took a risk, and we went and did an indoor show for 15 people and got paid well and had a great time. I was very happy to do it. But that's only the second show I've had since May. So as a comedian, it's very frustrating. And if you're able to find a show anywhere in the area, you're quite lucky. A lot of my friends have had to drive all the way to Las Vegas or go to one state over, Arizona, to do live shows. Some of the comedians here in LA have even moved to Austin, Texas. There's been a big exodus of comedians leaving LA to go to Texas because they want to perform live, and you just can't do that in LA. It's been very frustrating, Nick. How about over there? How's it going?
Yeah, where I am, I'm based in the northern beaches of Sydney. It's died down a lot, so we've managed it well. There hasn't been any clusters recently, so we can go out, we can do stuff. I went out on the weekend with some friends, so life's pretty, I guess, on the mend where it's going back to it. We're getting the vaccine soon, so hopefully, yeah, we can keep it that way. But yeah, generally speaking, obviously, it's not as bad as it is over there currently.
Oh, that's good to hear. I mean, I know you guys have been, you have the reputation of kind of handling it better than some countries. Could be because your population's smaller. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows what the factors are, but you guys have done a pretty good job with it, and you're probably living somewhat of a normal lifestyle, somewhat a little more normal than we are, and I really miss that. I really miss that. I can't wait for it to get back to normalcy. Like I said, I've had 2 shows since May, and I've gone on maybe 6 auditions since the summer as well. Like, so the television and film industry is kind of screeched to a halt as well here in Hollywood and LA. I've noticed, at least for me, and that's been frustrating as well, because that's the reason why I moved here in the first place, was to do more television
Sure.
as an actor. I really enjoy acting. I did shoot a short film uh, in November that's going to be able to be viewed in a few weeks. It's almost done editing. But other than that, I haven't really worked as an actor at all for, I mean, almost a year. It's been really, yeah, kind of frustrating.
You did. I saw and read that you did it's tour when the virus broke out.
Correct.
Yeah, talk to me about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I went to Asia uh, around the end of January last year. This
Sure.
time now, I was in Asia, and I was there until March 10th. And I traveled through Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan, and Japan. At that time, the outbreak in those countries was very new, very new. And my experience of it was confusing. I was confused because I didn't, in hindsight, it made sense, but I thought at the time that their reaction to it was it was a little too much. I thought they overshot it. I thought they were overly paranoid about this because it was like they had, maybe they got 100 cases and they were already shutting down and taking temperatures to enter stores and everybody's requiring them to wear a mask. And there was not a single death in some of these cities and they were already shutting down and the military got involved and they were taking temperatures to enter stores and bakeries and this sort of thing. And in places like Taipei, for instance, in Singapore as well, my shows were getting canceled, not all of them, but some of them. And I just thought, wow, this is a very exaggerated response to the situation. I thought, and so I was a little confused and disappointed because I wanted to enjoy these places a little bit more. I still was able to, of course, and this was my first time in these places, so it was all eye-opening. But I thought they were a little exaggerated in the response. Turns out, in hindsight, that was actually the correct response. The wrong response was the American response, which was to not take this very seriously. So that was pretty nuts. To be an American traveling around there and not wearing a mask, I was getting dirty looks and what. But I just didn't. I was like, why already masks? There's nobody's died yet. I was wrong. For sure. Overall, though, being in those places for the first time was a tremendous experience. I really enjoyed them. These places, I'd like to go back. I got kind of lucky in the sense that in some of these cities, totally dead. The tourists did not show up. I was able to go to all of these popular places easily. For instance, like Kyoto in Japan. Now, this is a city that's usually inundated with tourists, and they have these temples there, and these temples are very popular. And when I was there, pretty empty, and the locals were saying such things like, "Wow, I can't believe how empty it is." For me, it was a blessing because I was able to visit all these places without the crowds. I was able to get around swiftly and see everything, go to restaurants without a wait, and all that stuff that normally doesn't occur in Kyoto. My experience was great because of that. The shows were hit or miss. Some of them were canceled. Some of them went forward with a smaller crowd. Some of them went forward with a full crowd. So it was a mixed bag with the shows. Overall, the shows in Asia, they were in, lots of them are in, you can find English speaking shows. Singapore speaks primarily English, as does Malaysia. And then in Taiwan is a mix of Chinese English is spoken there. So most people do understand English. And in Japan, they have English specific shows that are for predominantly expats. And they take place at usually like an Irish pub or an English pub. And you'll get, New Zealanders, Australians, people from the UK, Americans, that they will go there specifically for those English-speaking comedy shows, which I thought was pretty cool phenomenon. It allowed me to perform in a place I never thought I could, and in English, which is great.
Yeah.
Do you any specific details you'd like to hear about the trip?
What was the funniest story you have?
The funniest story I have. What happened that was funny? I mean, it was in the middle of a pandemic, so it wasn't all so funny. I would say, well, now I'm really on the spot. What funny? Okay, well, I bought salmon out of a vending machine.
Wow.
Yeah, in Asia, you can buy anything out of a vending machine. And so, you could buy like dog treats and women's underwear and like crazy shit. I bought frozen salmon out of a vending machine. I made a video about it on my YouTube channel, Funny Jones YouTube. I put it up there. It's a couple minutes long. It's in two parts. The first part is I'm buying salmon out of the vending machine. The next video is I cook it and try it. Is it good? And it was hilarious. I never thought I would ever see something sold in a vending machine like that. It's a piece of fish, a piece of frozen fish, but it was surprisingly delicious. And the whole thing was so funny and weird to me. I just enjoyed it. It's like you would never see that in America. Never, ever, ever. People would complain that, people would picket outside this vending machine. Like, this is unsafe. You should not be buying salmon out of a vending machine. Yeah, but eating McDonald's is okay. That's all right. Right. So, yeah, that was something that happened that was pretty damn funny. I took full advantage, by the way.
I'm sure you did. Let's talk about your podcast. You're the host of Weird AF News. Talk to me about
that. Weird AF News is a daily weird news podcast. It's the only one in existence that's daily, and it's been an ongoing production for me for over 3 years, about 900 episodes, over 1 million downloads. It's something that I started just for the heck of it. I didn't think it would become anything. I just thought it would be fun to provide. I enjoy weird things. I enjoy weird news. I really enjoy anything weird, which is why, salmon out of a vending machine to me is like thumbs up. That's so fun.
Yeah, it resonates with you. Yeah.
The weird and the bizarre has always resonated with me. And I thought we'll do this weird news show because I was already reading weird news anyways on my own. I kind of like it better than mainstream news. Mainstream news has been quite depressing for the longest time. I mean, especially when we had Trump in office, it was just depressing every day, just crazy shit about Trump. And I didn't want to hear it anymore. So I would, but I still like to get news. Weird news seemed suitable for me. And I thought, why not do a show about it where I cover weird news? No one's was really doing it at the time. So 5 day a week, weird news. And on Fridays, I only do weird news out of the state of Florida. And Florida has a reputation of having the strangest stories, weird, degenerate news coming out of Florida. Awful, crazy criminals. The stories are they're outrageous. The behavior is outrageous. This place is it's like a mental institution. Like, it's really, the whole state is fucked up. Part of my language. It's just a fucked up place. And so the news that comes out of there is just wild, man. So on Friday, I do Florida Fridays, just news out of Florida. And it's the most popular episode of the week. It gets twice as many downloads as any other episode. No surprise there. I think people are pretty obsessed with what they call Florida man news. And and so I've been doing the podcast a while, make a small amount of money. I have a Patreon and they kind of support the show. And I enjoy it. I'm getting emails and messages from people all over the world that are really enjoying the weird news. And I'm proud to say that I'm also introducing the state of Florida to the world. Yeah. I mean, I'm getting messages from people from Australia, New Zealand, Ireland. They're like, hey, mate, I never realized that Florida was so fucked up. I'm like, yeah, it is absolutely. And everybody in the U.S. knows that. And now the rest of the world is kind of, through my podcast, I hope, also learning that Florida is so crazy. It's so goddamn crazy.
Do you have an example of a story that you can tell us recently that's transpired?
Yeah, well, let me tell you my favorite story of the year last year. There was a woman in Florida who was urinating. I don't know how she did this, but she was urinating on people's mailboxes and leaving. This was on Easter, and she would urinate on the mailbox, and she would leave an Easter egg in each mailbox. When you open the Easter egg out, there was a small piece of paper with a pornographic image on it.
Wow.
So just leaving pornographic eggs in people's mailboxes and peeing on their mailboxes for Easter. Like, this woman was out of her mind, and she did it to an entire neighborhood of people. It made the news. And this is the kind of activity. I don't even know what drug that you could take that would make you do such a thing. This is very creative. I don't even know how you come. First of all, where do you even get pictures of porn? I mean, this is like from the 1970s, a small photograph of a pornographic image. I don't even know where you get that. To put it in an Easter egg? Like, I mean, she thinks that she's the pornographic Easter bunny and delivering joy and urinating. I mean, it's just so bizarre. There's so many stories about that. A guy stole all the pool floats. Are you familiar with pool floats? Do you guys call them pool floats? Inflatable rafts, small rafts and inner tubes for swimming pools. Sometimes they're
Yes,
in the shape.
we've got them here. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they're in the shape of an alligator or a swan or something. Well, somebody in a neighborhood in Florida stole all of the pool floats from all the pools in the neighborhood to have sex with in his garage, so that he didn't rape women. He said, yeah, if I didn't have sex with these pool floats, I'd be out there raping women. So this is my way of controlling my own behaviors, having sex with pool floats. I mean, crazy. The state of Florida is just filled with degenerates like this. They're all on drugs. They're criminals, most of them. I'm sorry to say, any listeners from Florida, but you're a bunch of criminals.
Oh, that's too funny. All right, let's go back. Tell me about growing up, your family. How did you end up where you are now in LA?
I grew up in a suburb of Boston, Massachusetts, a low-income family. Uh, stepfather's like a plumber. My mother, a cashier at a grocery store her whole life for the most part, and really wasn't able to kind of have the whole huge college experience, and but discovered that I kind of liked being an artist. I was interested in playing music, and I would dabble in a little bit of that, and I got into playing music in bands, and then from there, I was introduced to stand-up comedy and discovered that, and I really like that more than music. Actually, it was more challenging. Because I think because I would say it's more difficult. I became obsessed with it. Like I wanted to try to do it well, because it's very hard to do it well, and I kept getting a little bit of laughs here and there, and I was like, oh man, if I could just figure this out. I wanted to figure this out because I knew I could get laughs. I knew I was funny, and I really wanted to prove it on the stage. It took me a long time to get funny on stage, really funny. I moved to New York in my 20s, and I was there for a number of years specifically to do stand-up comedy, because it really is the mecca of stand-up comedy. There's more clubs and shows and venues that do stand-up comedy in New York than anywhere in the world. It's not uncommon for you to have 4 or 5 shows in a night in New York City, and if you hustle, you could do even more. You could get on stage 8 to 10 times a day in New York City if you're really connected and you really hustle. So with all that stage time, you can develop relatively quickly as a stand-up comic. It's a great place to develop, the best place, I would argue. And because of my time there, I was able to learn the skills and get better, get more comfortable on stage. And in addition to that, I had some acting opportunities in New York because there's a whole television and theater and movie scene there. And I wanted to try acting as well. I knew I could do that. I had made videos with my friends and stuff, and I thought I had a gift for acting on camera. It's fun. It's so fun, And then, of course, to make things on my own, I got a camera and I was shooting videos with me and my friends, writing scenes, and we'd shoot them together, and then I would edit them. It's just a lot of fun to play with others, especially in the world of comedy. We try and make funny videos. So I kind of got into acting as well. I took some classes to get better at it. I thought I'd take it seriously. I learned, took audition seminars, how to audition better, and I started booking jobs, some voiceover jobs, commercials, acting in film and television, very small amount of theater. And I really enjoyed that as well, and had a little bit of success. Between that and the stand-up, I thought, where can I go next with this? And so that brought me out to Los Angeles, where I've been trying to, work as often as possible. Before the pandemic, I was pretty fortunate to shoot some things, and be cast as an actor in some projects, and make a little money. And I hope to get back to doing that again when this pandemic is over. LA is it's kind of a place where you have to be if you want to be an actor, in my opinion. If not New York, LA. Even these other places, like a lot of, I mentioned earlier, my comedian friends, they're moving away from LA. They're going to Austin, Texas, most of them. But that's great for stand-up if you want to do, because the clubs are open out there and stuff. But still, they cast here in LA mostly. If you want to be an actor on these streaming services, you really have to be in Hollywood. This is where the casting offices are. This is where the writers and the productions are. This is where the TV studios are located. And you kind of have to be here if you want to do that. And this is probably the main reason I've stuck it out here. I've stayed here even through the pandemic, because I'm hoping it all will come back at some point. Also, right now it's snowing in Austin. I don't know if you know that, but like no, thank you.
Yeah, it's nice and warm where you are. Anyway, I know LA. I've been there a few times, so I like the weather there
It's great.
for sure. All right. What are your passions and hobbies aside from doing comedy? What do you like to do in your downtime?
I'm kind of a bit of a sports freak. I like to play sports and watch sports. I listen to podcasts about sports. Ordinarily, I would play 1 day a week. I play basketball with some friends, and 2 days a week I would play softball, which I don't know if you got softball in.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Wait, you got softball? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like baseball for adults. So I was on a couple of softball teams before the pandemic, and so I'd play 2 days a week softball, 1 day a week basketball. Really like to play sports. And even golfing. I'll go golf. I'm not great, but I like to try it. I like to go out there, and I like being outside, running around in the sunshine. I love it. That's why one of the reasons why I really love Southern California so much is you can kind of play outdoors all year round, really. Even if you're into hiking, I mean, it's just like a perfect place for that. And I really enjoy playing sports. It's been a real drag not to be able to play organized sports since the pandemic, man. Really, really miss it. I can still golf. Golf courses are open, but no organized sports really of any sort is even allowed here in LA County right now. So there's no basketball leagues. In fact, if you drive, it's fascinating. If you drive around LA, oftentimes if you drive by what was a public basketball court, you'll see that they have removed the rims.
Wow.
Yeah, there's no rim. They've taken them off so that no one can even shoot a hoop. There is no hoop. It's been removed. And that's just fucking awful. And it saddens me. Because sports for me is like, oh, God, I love it so much, you know. It's gotten me through so many times, so many hard times, man. It's just going to play basketball. You can forget about your cares. And, you know, it's just like, it's great. It's really good for the body and the mind. I miss that shit.
Excellent. If you were 18 again, Jonesy, and you could do things differently in your life, what would you change?
I would have started stand-up comedy earlier than I did. I mean, I started in like early 20s. I would have started like in my teens if I could have. Like, you know, Dave Chappelle started when he was like, 14 or something. Maybe not that early, but I would have liked to have started 5 years earlier. I thought that would have been awesome, just to get as big a jump as possible. I wish I had known then that I wanted to do it, you know. But I mean, I can't blame myself. I mean, who knows? I wanted to be a professional baseball player, which is just silly because I'm 5'6". It just was never going to happen, and so I wish I had. But we all, who knows what they want to do at the age of 15 anyways. We hardly ever do. You know, we think we do. But I really wish I had at least tried it at the age of 15 or 16 and see what I could have done with it just to really get a jump on it. And I wish I had moved to New York sooner. You know, I wish I had done that as well. Instead of like, I don't know, kicking around Boston after high school was just a waste of time. You know, I wish I had gotten out sooner. I guess what I'm saying is I wish I knew what I wanted earlier in the night. I wish I just would have jumped right into stand-up. I just didn't think, I don't know, you don't think that you would be doing that. I mean, we all watch it and we think, oh, I could try that. That's what the guy's just talking, saying funny things. It's actually so much harder than that. But I mean, I guess you never really see yourself doing that. It's so rare that people even try it. But I wish I had gotten a jump on that. You know, I mean, I went to college for a little while just to see if I could do, and what a waste of time. Fantastic.
not getting too political here, but in your opinion, where do you see the United States generally positioned going into the future?
Oh, wow. That's a pretty deep question. The United States position as like a world in the state of affairs in the world.
Generally, just speaking.
Oh, generally speaking, the U.S. Wow. Not prepared for this one. And I'm quite pessimistic, so take this with a grain of salt.
Sure.
People aren't going to like this answer, but the United States is a place where the ego is allowed to flourish unfettered. What do you mean by that, Jonesy? I mean, we are so hell-bent on personal freedom that it is allowing egos to do whatever the fuck they want, and no one is calling bullshit. What does that mean, Jonesy? That means if you want to own a gun and carry it around and bring it to the bowling alley, there's a place in the U.S. where you can do that, okay? And you can tell everybody else to go fuck themselves without any recourse whatsoever. We are obsessed with this. We are so egoistic and selfish that we're never going to get anything done, because none of us will ever cooperate. The country's split down the middle between people who support a fucking terrorist. I will name this terrorist. Donald Trump is a fucking terrorist. Split down the middle. Almost 70 million people voted for this guy. This is a huge issue. Those people believe in the things that I'm talking about. Those people believe it is their right to do whatever the fuck they want, and who cares about anybody else? They do not care about people who are struggling in lower incomes. They do not care about mothers who would like to have an abortion because they can't afford a kid or they were raped. Whatever the case, they don't support abortions. They do support waving my gun, doing whatever the hell I want, that kind of shit. This sounds like contradiction, but in many ways they are contradictory. This country is, because of the ego is allowed to flourish, and these points of view are allowed to live. I'm not saying we need to be fascist and shut down certain points of view, but there comes a point when a point of view is so dysfunctional for a culture that you need to do something about it. You need to do something. The fact that you can order a gun and have a gun, whatever kind you want, basically, and carry it around in the open in some states is not okay behavior. It is absolutely not okay behavior. But half of the country believes that it should be. Half of the country believes that they should control women's bodies. This is a terrible approach to a culture. It's not as bad as the Muslim world, where their women are covered up and shit, but it is towards that. It is absolutely towards that. The control of women and women's bodies. This is a toxic approach. This is a toxic lifestyle and ideology to have. But yet these people are allowed to continue with this behavior and continue with these point of views. And the people that seep into the world of politics from that ideology actually get somewhere. People support it, and they're allowed to push through policy that erodes females' rights, this sort of thing, that gives more power to gun owners, this sort of thing. These are huge problems with and it all comes from this unfettered, you want to call it freedom, it's all couched in freedom. This is a huge problem. This is a very pessimistic answer. I hope that other countries look at America and they get a little dose of some of the personal freedoms that we have here. Like, when you go around Asia, you don't see people with tattoos. It's very rare. It's very rare. I like to think that the United States is adding to the popularity of tattoos around the world. This is a place where you can get a tattoo on your neck and people really don't mind. It's not crazy behavior anymore. That's what I'm talking about. This person. So there's a little bit of that. It's okay. It's okay. If you want to do body modification, it's okay. You want to express yourself in crazy art, which we do here as well. Crazy art. Great. But there are some areas where you and your personal freedom is not okay. It harms others, and it's not okay. And I hope that other countries don't take those values. I hope that they don't look to that and be like, oh, I want so much personal freedom that I can do whatever the fuck I want. I can shoot somebody if they take a step on my property or whatever the fuck it is. Not that you shouldn't be able to, I mean, that's a gray area. But I should say, I hope people don't think, oh, that the American way is great, where just me and my gun and fuck the world, Like, and I don't want to pay taxes into a social program that gives health care to everybody. This is the kind of attitude I'm talking about. It's a very selfish attitude that I don't think I would hate to see other countries adopt. There's a personal freedom there that I think is great, but there comes with it, at one point, there's so much selfishness, and I don't think that's okay. Does this make any sense at all, or does this sound like the ramblings of a crazy person?
No, it's your opinion, and yeah, I appreciate it's great insights to what you believe and what you think, man. I really appreciate your opinion. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Nick. It wasn't very funny of an answer, but
No, but it's great insights, and yeah, like I think, yeah, it's great. It's a great opinion.
Thank you, Nick. Do you have any other questions like that? That was pretty deep.
No, man, that's it. Thanks for joining my podcast, Jonesy. I do
Oh,
appreciate
thanks
it.
for having me. That was great. I love that. I hope your listeners found it fascinating and not simply just the ramblings of a crazy American person.
No, you're definitely not, man. You're definitely educated, and you're a cool guy. So.
Oh, Nick, that's so sweet of you to say that, man. I so appreciate that. Thank you so much. That's you're a cool guy as well, and I'm glad that you reached out to me to have me on here. How did you find me? It was Matchmaker?
Yeah, matchmaker. Yeah,
Matchmaker, great, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of interviews off of Matchmaker. It's a great service, and everybody's been awesome, man. Like yourself, all the talks I've had have been, it's been engaging. They've been electric. I really like it, and they've come from all over the world. All over the world.
Yeah.
I had a girl from Nigeria ask me to be on her podcast. So Nigeria, I'm like, oh shit. Turns out they speak English. I had no idea.
There you go.
Perfect. Yeah, I guess if your listeners want to keep up with what I'm doing, I'm on Instagram at Funny Jones. And my podcast, Weird AF News, can be heard on any of your podcast players. Or you could go to weirdafnews.com as well, and you can find the podcast there. I finally got a website after 3 years. I finally spent some money and got a website for my podcast. I guess that means I'm legit now.
You're moving all up in the world, right?
No, I'm trying, man. I went too long without a website. I was like, I don't need it. Fuck it, I don't need it. And then I'm like, well, I want to seem like I'm professional. Let me get it. Fuck it.
Yeah. Cool,
Great.
man. Well, have a great day, and yeah, thanks for joining my podcast.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate you, man. Stay safe.
Same with you.